Hi, this is Pastor Michael Bogart. Welcome to this training session for the First Touch team here at Yosemite Lakes Community Church. Now first, I want to thank you for being willing to serve the Lord in this way. You'll be performing a vital ministry that will be both helpful to our overall program and, I hope, fulfilling for you as a person. So let's begin with a question. What do you think people think about when they prepare to come to a church event? Many people may wonder, what's the music going to be like? Or what's the sermon going to be on that day? Will they be taught? Will they be challenged? Will they be inspired? Maybe they'll be comforted. Or they may have a question about what's in store for the kids or the youth that day. Or maybe they're thinking about whether they want to get involved in a study or a group. Still others may be mainly looking forward to just seeing their friends. Of course, these are great things to think about as you come to church. But does anyone ever think about the greeters or the ushers or the people who make it their ministry to provide safety and security? Well, probably most people don't think much about those kinds of things in advance. But on the other hand, if they're ignored as they enter worship, or if they have a problem finding resources that they need, I guarantee you that people will be thinking about the First Touch team. Where were those people when I needed some help, they may be wondering. And of course, I don't blame them. I vividly remember visiting a church some years ago. I got there, I walked in. Two ushers were having a very intense chat as I walked right by them. No welcome, no greeting. I looked around, but I couldn't find a bulletin, so I just opened the doors and entered the sanctuary. As I entered this space for the first time, I wondered if there were some kind of special seating arrangement or something, but not seeing any signs or directions, I just went ahead and found an empty spot and sat down. But no one around me even looked my way. I sat there during the prelude music as other people entered and were greeted by their friends. I was beginning to feel very weird by this time, so after a few moments of feeling uncomfortable and out of place, I just got up and made my way out of the sanctuary, right past those same ushers who were still in conversation. I found my car and I drove away. Not one word was spoken the entire time. And this was an affluent, well-equipped church with educated and successful people who I would have thought would have known better. And I never returned. Can you relate? The moral of the story is that the job of any First Touch team is to make coming to church easy and pleasant. And that's the very least we should do. But it's much more than that. Our job, our ministry, is to help people gain a sense of excitement and anticipation for what God may do in their lives that very day and in the lives of those gathered with them. Okay, are you ready? Let me explain what the First Touch team is. Typically, a First Touch team includes two kinds of service. Usher Greeters focus on welcoming and resourcing people as they enter the building. The parking lot team focuses on assisting people outside the building. It's really as simple as that, assisting people inside and assisting people outside. What's the purpose of the team? Well, that's simple too. The purpose of the First Touch team is to set an atmosphere of worship, fellowship, security, and comfort. It's more than moving people from street to seat. It's to assist them on that spiritual journey that we all make from the cares of everyday life to meeting God and sensing community with God's people at a church event. What qualifications do you need to be a team member? There are several things that, of course, are essential. You need an authentic walk with Jesus Christ. Now, you don't have to be a plaster saint. You don't even need to be an experienced Christian. But you do need to be on the path to being the real deal. People need to sense the presence of God in your life, your speech, and manners. You should also be a member or at least a regular attender. It's hard to help people find what they need and answer questions about how things are done if you yourself aren't really involved that regularly. Do you have a desire to serve? That's important too. You won't be effective if it's obvious that you don't want to be in this ministry. People will sense it a mile away. Or let me put it this way. Do you have a feeling that God might want you to serve in this kind of ministry? Maybe you didn't have a vision of God telling you to serve with the First Touch team, but do you at least feel that God might be pleased if you gave it a try? Also, you really should find enjoyment in people. Do you connect? Do you look forward to being helpful? Do you enjoy meeting new folks? Because that's a huge part of what this ministry is all about. Now let's look specifically at the Usher Greeter side of the First Touch team. Remember that Usher Greeters focus on welcoming and resourcing people as they enter the building. So what are their duties? Usher Greeters welcome people to services and events. They distribute bulletins and other written information to folks as they enter. They may record attendance. They may help with communion. They may regulate the temperature, control access to the worship center, and ensure that everyone is spoken to during greeting time. And of course, there may be other duties that they will do from time to time. Now let's consider the usher greeter role at a typical worship service. Let's first consider what they need to do before services and events. Usher greeters should arrive 25 to 30 minutes before the service, so in plenty of time to be set and ready to engage in ministry. They should have prayed before they come, to be ready to serve the Lord. They should wear a name tag. Upon arrival, they should check in with the lead usher and read the bulletin and other information so that if they are asked typical questions about what's happening, they may reply without seeming to be unprepared. They can help set up information and welcome tables and make sure other necessary materials, supplies, equipment, and furniture are on hand and set up and ready to go. Someone from the team should ensure that there's water and other supplies for the speaker that day. Okay, what happens as worship begins? First, remember to smile and offer friendly greetings to those who are entering. Be aware. Notice if people have special needs. Maybe they have special needs related to hearing or wheelchair access or large print. Be ready to assist with seating if they seem unsure of protocol or which seats are available. You may need to rope off or otherwise restrict access to seats if a certain section is reserved for a certain group of people like the choir or special guests. Or you may close off a section if the expected crowd is significantly smaller than capacity. Usher greeters will close inner and outer doors as directed. They'll be aware of and monitor excess noise both inside and outside the auditorium. And of course, during worship and other events, they should be aware of procedures set up to address emergencies. For instance, be alert for problems like medical problems, safety issues, temperature regulation, and various types of disturbances and distractions. I'll speak to those issues in more detail in a moment. Usher greeters should remain available until most of the latecomers arrive. The lead usher, or their designee, should count the attendance as the sermon begins. This allows for most of the latecomers to arrive so that an accurate count can be made. And don't forget to count the classes and groups that meet at the same time as worship. During times in the service when the congregation is invited to greet one another, it is essential that ushers and greeters look for people who are not being reached out to by members of the congregation. And they need to make sure that those people are acknowledged and greeted if nobody else is doing it. Ushers may also be asked to serve communion when Communion Sundays roll around. Okay, what about as services are concluding and after worship? Ushers should monitor offering boxes and receptacles. And after the service, they should scan the worship center and restrooms and help tidy them as needed. Usher greeters should take down and put away equipment and supplies, etc. And of course, close the building as directed. Now let's turn our attention to the parking lot team. Worship and Christian community really begin in the individual heart, of course. It can happen at home or anywhere, while you're driving even. You don't need to be at church for a commitment to be made. But let's think this through. Let's say you get up on a Sunday morning, you get ready, and you're coming to church. All the time, at least in the back of your mind, there's an anticipation of what the experience will bring. You get in your car, you drive to church, More anticipation. You park, you gather your things, and then you and your family head toward the entrance. All of this is a preparation for meeting God and meeting with God's people. What happens to you at home and on the way is out of the church's control. But the moment you drive into the parking lot, we have some input. Isn't it only reasonable that some of that input is available from the very moment you park and prepare to enter? So with that in mind, what is the purpose of this parking lot team? Here are some main purposes: to provide routine security of the building and the grounds, to create an environment of safety, to give helpful directions, and to offer needed assistance. What are the expectations for an effective parking lot team? Well, let's think through a typical worship event. Before the worship event, the team members should arrive about 25 to 30 minutes beforehand. They should wear name tags and perhaps safety vests. They should check in with the parking lot team leader. They should set up signs, flags, and outdoor tables. They should read the bulletin and other information. They need to greet people as they arrive. They need to offer assistance and direction as needed. They need to identify safety and security issues as they arise. And they should be aware of and act on emergency procedures as necessary. During events, the parking lot team should scan or patrol the parking areas and communicate with the team leader or church staff. After events, they may offer assistance to people as they exit. When most everyone is gone, the team should put away the signs, the flags, and the outdoor tables and pick up trash. I mentioned safety and security, so let's dig a little deeper here. The truth is that major security issues are fairly rare for most churches. I'm talking about people coming onto the property intending violence, theft, or to cause some major disturbance. However, some facilities are located in high crime areas, so security becomes much more of a routine issue in that case. Then again, people are people, and they sometimes just act out of whatever anger or self-interest that they may have. So naturally, issues can happen anywhere. What should the First Touch team do when a security threat arises? Well, here are some procedures. First, communication is absolutely vital. I'm talking about communication between team members on duty as well as communication with leaders and staff. Since they tend to be in the building, Usher Greeters may communicate with team leaders and staff just directly. They just find them and alert them to the problem. Of course, not all issues require a leader to deal with them, so you'll just have to use your judgment or follow the specific directions of the leaders as to the level at which communication with them is necessary. Since the parking lot team is typically outside, they must have communication devices available and turned on at all times, so cell phones, walkie-talkies, whatever. Make sure the team has one another's cell numbers available very quickly. Security threats may involve verbal, emotional, or physical danger to individuals on the campus or at events. The first step is to determine the seriousness of the situation. Some threats are obviously more serious than others. For immediate threats, call 911 for law enforcement or fire or ambulance. And of course, alert the team leader and staff. Be sure to quickly take steps to secure buildings and get people to safety. Other threats are not so immediate. A person or persons who are acting strangely but don't seem to be ready to cause harm, maybe they don't require a 911 call. So speak to the people involved and offer assistance. Be aware that the situation may, however, escalate. If the danger is not a person but a safety hazard like a water leak, a fire hazard, traffic obstruction, and so forth, then assess the potential danger and take appropriate action. If you can safely fix the problem, do so. If not, quickly contact someone who can and see that it's resolved. Of course, alert the team leader and staff as appropriate. All right, what about medical emergencies? As with any safety issue, first determine the seriousness of the situation. If it's minimal, offer appropriate assistance. People with minor cuts and bruises can be offered supplies from a medical kit on hand. If the situation is more serious, ask the person what they want to do about it and then respond. If the person is unable to interact rationally, then of course, immediately call 911 for ambulance service. Don't forget to alert the team leader and staff as soon as possible. Here are some other issues. You'll want to have regular team meetings either as an entire group or in smaller groups, say between the ushers and between the parking lot team members. When new people are recruited, they should go through this training and meet personally with the appropriate team leader for scheduling and more specific instructions. Perhaps they should shadow an experienced team member for a few weeks to see how this whole ministry is done. And one more thing. Each week as you leave, after all has been done, rejoice in the knowledge that you have served Christ and helped bring people closer to Him. This ministry is every bit as vital as any other in the church. We all work together to reach people with good news that God loves them, and in Jesus He has done all that is necessary to come back to Him. For those who know Him, our job is to help support one another as we walk with Him. Your service is vital to these callings, so thank you. This is Pastor Michael Bogart of Yosemite Lakes Community Church.